Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, in the name of God who is the most beneficent and merciful. So students, I am Amjad Ali Shah, lecturer in philosophy, Department of Islamic and Pakistan Studies, Kohat University of Science and Technology. So here is our course title, that is Introduction to Logic. The course code is PHI102. Our lecture number is 12 and our today's topic of discussion is what is categorical proposition. So students, we are here going to start what is the theory of deduction, clauses and categorical propositions, the four kinds of categorical proposition, quality, quantity and distribution of terms of those four categorical propositions. We will also have a discussion about diagrammatical representation of four categorical propositions. So as a matter of fact, we have theory of deduction. So students, here we are going to start with the theory of deduction. As a matter of fact, this section of our course is devoted to deductive arguments. You must know that theory of deduction is aimed to explain the relation of premises and conclusion in valid arguments. We will also examine those fallacies which are committed in deductive arguments, like we have invalid arguments. We will discuss like those 6 syllogistic rules and fallacy when we violate the 6 rules of syllogism. So definitely we commit a fallacy. Apart from that, we will also discuss some other formal fallacies. We have this theory of deduction divided into two other subsections, that is classical logic or Aristotelian logic, and the second is modern logic or symbolic logic. So now we are in this section, classical logic. It was Aristotle the Great who introduced the science of logic around about 2500 years ago. One of the beauty of Aristotle's mind was that he didn't only introduce the science of logic, that is nowadays we call it classical logic, rather he completed that science in his own lifetime. So apart from that, in the coming section we will be discussing modern logic or symbolic logic. As far as modern logic is concerned, it took birth in the very first quarter of the 20th century with the invention of symbolic language. So in this section, in the second section, we will be discussing different types of argument like hypothetical syllogism, disjunctive syllogism. We have some other complex arguments, and we will be using different types of techniques like truth table method. We have formal proofs of validity, we have rules of replacement, rules of inferences. So through all those techniques, we will be able to evaluate different types of arguments, whether they are valid or invalid in nature. We have clauses and categorical proposition. Now, first of all, before discussing categorical proposition, first of all, we must know what is a class. A class is actually a group of objects which have some common characteristics. For example, we have a class of human beings, which means that human beings have some common characteristics, like we all are rational beings, human beings are rational beings. So rationality is a kind of common characteristics. We have the class of politicians. Politicians have their own common characteristics, those people who are involved in politics. So this is about a class. Now, what is categorical proposition? As far as categorical proposition is concerned, as you know, as we have already discussed about proposition is a sentence which affirms or denies something, but categorical proposition is a type of proposition in which there are two clauses related to each other. So a type of proposition in which two clauses are related to each other. We have an example, all politicians are liars. Here, the word all is actually a quantifier, and politicians, let's analyze it. Politician is the subject of this categorical proposition. Liar is the predicate of this categorical proposition, or is the copula. Actually, R is the copula, basically copula links both the subject and predicate terms. So this is a categorical proposition. Now, what are the different types of relations? So, as I mentioned earlier, that categorical proposition is a proposition in which there are two clauses related to each other. So we have the relationship of inclusion. By inclusion, we mean when some or all of the members of any class are included in another class. That is known as inclusion. Or we can say that when some or all of the members of any class are contained in another class. So inclusion is further divided into two types. First is wholly inclusion. By wholly inclusion, we mean when all the members of any class are contained in another class. And by partial inclusion, we mean when some of the members of any class are included in another class. That is partial inclusion. We have also exclusion. So as far as exclusion is concerned, it is always wholly. Whenever members are excluded from any other class, so exclusion can never be partial. It is always wholly. You must remember it. Next to it, we have quantity of categorical proposition. Now, what does the quantity of categorical proposition mean? By quantity, we mean how many members we are referring in that particular class. If we are referring to all the members of any class, so we say that the quantity is universal. When we refer to some of the members of any class, we say the quantity is particular. And what about the quality of categorical proposition? When there is inclusion, we say the quality is affirmative. Where there is exclusion, we say the quality is negative. Now it will become more clear to you with the coming examples. So here are the four types of categorical proposition. We have all politicians are liars, that is universal affirmative. No politicians are liars, that is universal negative. And some politicians are liars, that is particular affirmative. And lastly, some politicians are not liars. So if you see, as far as the quantity is concerned, here we have a word that is all, which gives us a sense of quantifier. Here we have the quantifier all. And we have already discussed when we are referring to all the members of any class. So this all is actually meant to refer to all the members of the class of politicians. So the first proposition is universal. Its quantity is universal. And again, we see a kind of inclusion over here, because all the members of the class of politicians are included in the class of liars. So the quality is affirmative. So we have, as a result, we can symbolize it like all S is P, which means that all the members of the class of subject are included in the class of predicate. The second one is no politicians are liars. Now, if you see, here we have a quantifier no, which means, in fact, that all the members of the class of politicians are excluded from the class of liars. So in English, we are not supposed to use like all no in the very beginning of a sentence. So rather, we should use the word no. So again, the quantity is universal because we are referring to all the members of the politicians, and we have a type of exclusion. Now, the quality is negative. So as a result, we get no S is P, which means all the members of the class of subject are excluded from the class of predicate. Some politicians are liars. Now we have again a quantifier, that is some. When we refer to some of the members of any class, so the quantity is particular. So some politicians are liars, the quantity is particular, and we have a type of inclusion, that is partial inclusion, and therefore the quality is affirmative. So we get sum S is P, which means some of the class of subject, some of the members of the class of subject are included in the class of predicate. Next to it we have some politicians are not liars. Now again we have the word some with another word not, which which actually means a type of exclusion. But this some refers to the class of politicians in a particular sense. So this politician is also a particular proposition. So this proposition is also a particular proposition, and we have a kind of exclusion, that's why the quality is negative. So we get some S is not P, which means some of the class of the members of politicians are excluded from the class of liars. Now we have these four types of proposition. They are named as A, E, I, O. We are using these alphabets like A, E, I, O. So A is used for universal affirmative, E is used for universal negative, I is used for particular affirmative, and O is used for particular negative. As a matter of fact, student, you must know there is no logical restriction to use any other alphabet, but it has been a long established tradition in philosophy, or for logician, they have been using these alphabets A, E, I, O, and in fact these alphabets have been taken from the Latin words, that is affirmo and nego. If you see over here, we have affirmo. In affirmo we have three vowels A, I, O. So I have used the first two vowels in a larger text because we have only two affirmative proposition, this one and this one. So the very first vowel is used for the universal affirmative, that is all politicians are liars, and the second vowel is used for particular affirmative. We have over here, that is some politicians are liars. We have another words nego, in which there are two vowels. The first vowel is used for universal negative, and the second vowel is used for particular negative. So you will be using all these alphabets, and you should not use other alphabets, because in this course we will be dealing with these alphabets, and we will have deductive arguments like deductive syllogism, have categorical syllogism like A, E, E, which means the first premise is universal affirmative, the second one is universal negative, and the third one is universal, the conclusion is universal negative as well. So next it is, what is distribution of terms? By distribution of terms we mean either we are referring to all the members of any class, or we are referring to some of the members of any class. So a term is distributed when we refer to all the members of any class. So it means that whenever we are using a term in its universal sense, so we are referring to it as a distributed. We have a term is undistributed when we refer to some of the members of any class. Now let's analyze one by one whether the subject and predicate terms of these four categorical propositions are distributed or undistributed. We have a proposition A, that is all politicians are liars. So the subject is distributed while the predicate is undistributed. So we have an example from the process of conversion, though as a matter of fact Irving M. Copy, the author of a book that I have already suggested you, he says whenever there is an inclusion, and if there is no quantifier about the predicate term should be treated as undistributed. But that rule doesn't apply to all of the propositions. So rather it's good for us to use another technique, that is the technique of conversion. So conversion is a kind of technique in which we replace the subject and predicate terms of a categorical proposition, and then we see whether their logical meaning is equivalent or not. If the logical meaning is equivalent, then we may have a sort of deduction. So all politicians are liars. This is the original proposition. Now we replace the subject and predicate terms. Now here is liars, and here is the politicians. Here are the politicians. So all liars are politicians. All politicians are liars. All liars are politicians. If you compare these two propositions, so their logical meaning is not the same. Now let's have use another quantifier. Sum is a quantifier which gives us a sense of undistributed, which gives us an undistributed sense. So some liars are politicians. If you see the original proposition, all politicians are liars. Some liars are politicians. So they become very much closer to each other. So it means, actually it is known as conversion by limitation. So it means that we are referring to some of the members of the class of liars. We are not referring to all of the members of the class of liars, because the class of liars is a huge class in which there are doctors, in which there may be engineers, in which there may be teachers, in which there may be farmers. But in this proposition, we are referring to all those liars which are politicians. Not all liars, but the part of the class of liars, some of the members of the class of liars, which are politicians in fact. Next to it we have E proposition, which says no politicians are liars, where both subject and predicate are distributed. So we have an example: no politicians are liars. By conversion, if we replace the subject and predicate terms of the original proposition, that is, no politicians are liars, so we get something like this: no liars are politicians. So if you compare the meaning of these two statements or these two propositions, so they have an equivalent meaning. So it means that the quantifier, which is no, which gives us a distributed sense, it's applied to the predicate as well. So it means, in other words, that liars is used in the original proposition in a distributed sense. So we have another example as well: no dogs are cats, no cats are dogs. They both have the same logical meaning. So in E proposition, both the subject and predicate are distributed. We have I, that is particular affirmative. Some politicians are liars, in which both the subject and predicate are undistributed. Now we have an example: some politicians are liars. So some is a quantifier which gives an undistributed sense. So some politicians are liars, some liars are politicians. So it means, again, the undistributed quantifier applies to the predicate term over here. So both the subject and the predicate are undistributed. We have another example: some diamonds are precious stones. Some precious stones are diamonds. They have the same meaning. So it means that the undistributed quantifier some is applied to the predicate term, that is precious stones. Next we have some politicians are not liars. Some politicians are not liars. So here S is subject is undistributed while P is distributed. Let's have an example from the process of conversion. Some politicians are not liars. We have the quantifier some, which is applied to politicians. It means that politician is undistributed, are not liars. What about this liars? Some liars are not politicians. So their logical meaning, if you think, they are not the same. So it means the undistributed quantifier is not applied to the predicate term. So if the predicate is not undistributed, it means that it is distributed, and it will become more clear in the coming section when we will be dealing with the diagrammatical representation of four categorical proposition. Some apples are not sweet things. Some sweet things are not apples. Now, what happens over here, that the whole meaning of the proposition is changed. So it means that some not, the undistributed quantifier is not applied over here to the subject. So if the to the predicate. So if the predicate is not undistributed, so it should be distributed. Here we have the table. So this is A universal affirmative, E universal negative, I particular affirmative, and O particular negative. So the subject of A proposition is distributed and its predicate is undistributed, while the subject and predicate terms of both E proposition are distributed. In I proposition, we see both the subject and predicate terms are undistributed. In O proposition, we see the subject is undistributed and the predicate is distributed. Here are the references. A Concise Introduction to Logic by Patrick Hurley. The edition is 11th. We have another book, Introduction to Logic by Irving M. Copy, Carl Cohen, Kenneth McMahon, and the edition is 14th, and it was published by PSN Education Limited in 2014. Thank you very much. In the next lecture, we will be discussing diagrammatical representation of 4 categorical propositions. Thank you very much indeed.